Hey guys, so last time I did a dumpster diving haul, and today I want to talk about the Diva Cup, which is a menstrual cup that's pretty popular. So clearly I have the most glamorous ideas for YouTube videos. But the Diva Cup has actually been around for a while now, but I only decided to try it pretty recently because until a couple months ago, I was kind of scared and intimidated by the thought of using a cup to collect my period blood. But a lot of my friends had told me that it was super practical and made it feel like you weren't on your period, which sounded amazing. So I decided to give it a try. And I've been using the cup for around two cycles now, 2 months, same thing. And there was definitely a learning curve. In the first month, I had a lot of trouble with removal and insertion. When I was trying to take the cup back out, it felt like I was suctioning my insides out, which is definitely not very pleasant. And the very first time I used the cup, it also made me really need to pee all the time, which is also not very pleasant. But since then, I think I've gotten the hang of things, and I actually really have grown to like the cup and find it really useful. So I wanted to make this video to share my experience with other people who might be considering using the cup for the first time. So let's first take a look at the actual Diva Cup, which is basically just a silicone cup that comes in 3 different sizes, models 0 to 2. And the sizes are recommended based on whether you've given birth, your flow, your age, etc. So I got model 1, which is the one recommended to those 19 to 30 years old who haven't given birth yet. The way it works is you want to try one of the many different folds available. The most popular being probably this fold, the C fold, because it looks like a C kind of. It's a very poor C fold, but you get the idea. And once inserted, it'll pop open like it just did. And to make sure that it's fully open, you'll want to take the bottom of it and rotate it. And to remove, what you'll want to do is break the seal either by pushing the bottom or pinching the bottom. And then from there, you can use this little tail here to help you get the cup out. So you might be wondering why anyone would want to subject themselves to the menstrual cup when there are perfectly good options out there like tampons and pads. On the more logistical side, the menstrual cup can actually stay in for much longer than tampons. Tampons you get 8 hours, and with the menstrual cup you get 12 hours. And since the cup is actually holding your blood, there's also less risk of leaking. For instance, you might leak if you soak through your tampon, but you can't really soak through a silicone cup unless your flow is too heavy for the cup. Your cup overfloweth, I guess. But I think the cup is especially useful for swimming because I think that seems a lot more hygienic than using a wet tampon, for instance. And I think it's also awesome for sleeping because you can sleep in whatever position you want without worrying about bleeding all over the bed. Cost-wise, which is really important, you might also be able to save money with the Diva Cup over time. The Diva Cup costs $30, which is pretty pricey, but there are much cheaper menstrual cup brands out there, and you can also find the Diva Cup for a lot cheaper on sites like eBay, which is what I did, and I promise they're new, they're not used. But tampons and pads can really add up, so if you were to calculate the amount you spend per month on tampons and pads and take that versus the amount that you would spend on a menstrual cup, you'll probably find that your menstrual cup will pay off in less than a year. Menstrual cups are supposed to last at least a year, but many people have reported that they last for way longer than that, and some brands will even claim that you can use them for up to 10 years. So that could be a huge savings. And finally, just environmental-wise, by switching to the menstrual cup, you are cutting down on a lot of tampon and pad waste, so that is another bonus. So I feel like I've already given my opinion about the Diva Cup throughout this spiel already, but I'll just do a little recap here with some extra information. But the things that I like about the Diva Cup are, number 1, how practical it is for things like swimming and sleeping. You don't have to worry about leaks as much, and I've personally never had an issue with leaks so far. Number 2, you can save money on tampons and pads. If you still have a large supply of tampons and pads already, one thing you might consider is integrating the Diva Cup into your menstrual hygiene and switching between pads and tampons. So what I've been doing, for instance, is using the menstrual cup for more fitness-related activities and sleeping, but then using pads otherwise. That makes the transition a little bit easier because you're not just switching to the menstrual cup cold turkey, and you can use up the rest of the pads and tampons that you do have and not waste them. And number 3, you are cutting down on waste, so that's pretty awesome for the environment. And finally, I had a really good experience with Diva Cup customer service. I actually wrote in an Instagram caption about my struggles with the Diva Cup at first and tagged the Diva Cup account, and they responded pretty quickly with a comment and told me to get in touch with the Diva Cup support team. And so I sent them an email and they replied to me with a very thorough and prompt email as well. And I thought that was pretty awesome because it's not every day that you have a brand that is very reactive and helpful on social media and with their support team. So that's awesome. There isn't really anything that I dislike about the Diva Cup, but there are some things that you should know about it before giving it a try. And the first thing is that the Diva Cup is apparently one of the most rigid menstrual cups out there, so that can cause some issues with insertion, removal, and just general overall comfort. So if that is something that you're concerned about, I was recommended the Athena cup by a friend, which is apparently a lot softer of a cup, and it is also half the price of the Diva Cup at $15. And speaking of price, the Diva Cup is a little bit more expensive, so if you do want to save money, you might want to look into buying the cup on eBay, which is what I did, and I promise they're new again, or you could try another brand, like I just mentioned, the Athena cup. And finally, if you're going out for a long day, you might also want to be careful about the timing of your cup changing schedule. I've personally never had an issue with this because, you know, you can leave the cup in for up to 12 hours. And I've also found that the volume is more than enough for me. My cup has never been more than half full, even after a long night. But the thing is, if you are planning to be out for the whole day and don't want to change your cup in a public restroom, you might want to plan ahead for that. Though there are a lot of Google articles on what you should do about a menstrual cup in a public restroom, so you could look into that if that's something you think might apply to you. Oh, and I just remembered one last thing, and that's that you have to clean your cup monthly. So between uses within the same cycle, you could just rinse it out in the sink. There are some cleaning products that you could get if you wanted, but I've just been using water. But between every cycle, what you want to do is really sanitize your cup by boiling it in a pot for about 20 minutes. And in that case, you might want to get a specific sort of older pot just for that, because it's kind of a little bit gross to boil your menstrual cup in the same pot that you might use for your food, so that is something else to know. I hope this video was helpful. I obviously couldn't cover everything, so if you have any questions, be sure to leave them for me in the comments. If you want to try out the Diva Cup or another menstrual cup, I'll leave some links below for where you can find them online, though you can also find the Diva Cup specifically, usually in large retail chains like Target. Thank you for watching this very glamorous video, and I'll see you next time.